Sean here with BaseMint Comics, and it is December 22nd, and Hank and I are about to hit the trails one last time to see the lights that they have up in that area before Santa comes, and then it's back to BaseMint HQ to talk about Christmas comic traditions that I have that are not technically Christmas comics. So let's hit the trails, and then we'll be back here for that. We are back. T is in the Cyclops mug, and I am rocking an X-Men Christmas sweater. And this isn't like one of those like screen printed on sweatshirts. This is like a actual knitted badass X-Men sweater. Anyways, one of two actually that I have, but I like this one more. I like the blue color scheme. So in this episode, I am going to talk about like comic book traditions that I have when it comes to Christmas time and the holiday season that aren't necessarily you wouldn't think of. It's not like the last video I did, which was like an Advent style countdown of my favorite Christmas comics. This one is more so stuff that just like I bust out at Christmas time, and that's when I read it. So let's see. So the first one is a big one. So my introduction to the Dark Phoenix saga was X-Men the Animated Series. Just heard if you hear the running upstairs, wood floors in the house, and Hank is all hopped up on fudge. Which, I mean, who cares? We're all on Christmas vacation now because I'm off until after the new year from work. So it's 2 weeks of just whatever we feel like. Schedules be damned. Okay, so my first introduction to the Dark Phoenix saga was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, 1994. The first episode of that, of the cartoon version of the Dark Phoenix saga aired, and it was like glorious. I know the Fox movie versions both times for trying to adapt the Dark Phoenix saga were swings and misses. There are things about The Last Stand that I like, Beast. And there are actually things about the Fassbender McAvoy Dark Phoenix saga that I like, and I give that one a little bit more grace than everyone else does because I understand that film absolutely had, they tied their hands behind their back because they had a whole space thing going for the third act, and then Marvel swooped in and was like, hey, that's kind of what we're doing for Captain Marvel, so you can't do that. So they had to redo the complete third act. What are you going to do? But hands down, the best adaptation for that is X-Men the Animated Series, bar none. So that first Saturday in my house as a kid, the house that I grew up in, I've talked a little bit about this. I don't know specifically which episodes of the channel that I've talked about this, and I know in my origin story thing I probably brought it up, but when I was getting into comics, we live in like I grew up in like a small town in Michigan, very like cutesy quaint, and our house, my mom ran a candy store out of our house. And so the front of our house was was a candy shop. And I used to, we had a booth in our kitchen, and I used to sit in there, and that's where I would read my comics after school while my mom made candy. In that house at Christmas time, we had our tree, and next to the tree there was a fireplace, and there was this great, super, worn in, perfect recliner that I would sit in and read comic books by the fire. There are actually going to be quite a few that I talk about here where that was the initial, this is what I did, was read those by a fireplace while my mom made candy. So, that Saturday, Mom was making candy for the shop. My dad decided that was the year that I was going to learn how to properly light a Christmas tree. And I believe in the video for this, there's probably a shot at the end of the bike ride of our Christmas tree, and I take Christmas tree illumination very seriously. Our tree this year has something like 5,700 lights on it. It takes me all day. My dad used to, his thing was, my mom was not a Rod Stewart fan. She did not like his voice, but my dad loved it. And so the marital compromise between my mom and my dad was that he could listen to Rod Stewart, the Faces, Rod Stewart discography while he lit the Christmas tree. And my mom would go Christmas shopping or grocery shopping or work in the shop. And he'd be able to crank Rod the Mod. And so to me, Rod Stewart is Christmas music, and so I too carry on this tradition. November 1st, I fire up the Faces and Rod Stewart discographies, and basically it wraps up by the time that I am done, 8 to 10 hours later of winding the branches, so that there's a ridiculous amount of lights lit on that tree. It's so warm that we don't, our heat doesn't really kick on when the Christmas tree is on. So there you have it. Anyways, so that was the day, that Saturday after Thanksgiving in 1994, when my dad first let me help out lighting the Christmas tree, which was a big deal. And in that house, I obviously, I grew up during a time period where there were a plethora of Toy Biz X-Men action figures. And so, had a ton. And in that house, underneath the stairs that led into our basement, there was a room that was kind of sectioned off. And it was this pretty big space. And it had bookshelves in it, kind of sunk into the wall, sort of a little bit kind of like that, but actually in the wall. And kind of all this space. There was nothing in there, and I had asked when I got into comics and X-Men toys if I could have that space for my own, and I turned that into my X-Mansion. And my older sisters still had all of their dollhouse furniture and stuff, so I used to take the old cards that came in the X-Men packages, and I'd cut out construction paper frames, and I'd frame the team shots, put them in the bookshelves, and I had all this great dollhouse furniture to kind of make it legitimately look like the mansion. And there were bedrooms in there. It's a shame that I don't have I didn't take any pictures when I was a kid, because it wasn't I didn't have a camera in my pocket, and it wasn't my parents were gonna let me borrow their let me take some pictures of my playroom. That wasn't gonna fly. Hang on, I'm gonna grab something that's right over here. I'm gonna keep talking and do this. The thing that I used as a guide was this X-Men survival guide to the mansion. This came out around that time. And if you are an X-Men fan and you don't have this, you should look. It's spiral bound. It's a whole, it's like a handbook. If you were to go to Xavier's, and kind of gives you sort of Forge's notebook on, gives you a history of, there's fold out pages. There's the grounds, with schematics, and all that type of stuff. It's just really, really, like I'm sort of a nerd for those cutaway type of things that kind of, there's some pictures. There's Gambit's room. There's Jubilee's room. I know that it gives you schematics of how the Morlock tunnels work and all that type of stuff. You got schematics to the hangar and the Blackbird. I mean, it's good stuff. So, yeah, and then you get the war room, and then there's this whole thing that it's not going to do it. You get like plans for the danger room. It's just a really cool thing. Like, it's hilarious because this was $6.95, which was a ton back then. But I mean, I devoured this thing. I even got it signed by Michael Golden. Obviously, like, I used that thing in that, and I had like the Power Rangers Zord like command center and the Jurassic Park command center were kind of built in there, and I used old like car fuses and stuff for like Beast Lab. I had it was very intricate and crazy, and so I was down there playing after I was building the hangar thing, because I was hanging it from the ceiling, like taking string, and I had cardboard all laid out, and I'd punched holes in it so I could put white Christmas lights along both sides of it, so it would like light up the runway, and it like went out the stairs, so I could like blast off the Blackbird like out one of the holes in the stairs. And anyways, a ridiculous amount of fun in that under the stairs area. So, all right, I'm 10 minutes into this, and I've only talked about one comic book. So I've weeded out the people who are not interested in this. So, that Chris... Oh, man. So, I gotta pause this for a second because there's a vent right here, and I can hear Henry talking to me through the vent. So I'll be right back. All right, I am back. Okay, so that year, 1994, the thing that I would get under the Christmas tree that meant the most to me, especially after catching that 4-episode Dark Phoenix Saga adaptation, was my parents purchased this trade with this fantastic Bill Sienkiewicz cover. I mean, that thing's beautiful. And the great thing about this is over the years, because obviously this means this was the first trade paperback I ever got, like the first collected story. I remember reading this Christmas night, like devouring this, so excited, like, oh my god, it's so good. So over the years, I have gotten it signed. I think I've talked about this before, but who cares? This could be someone's first video. I got it signed by John Byrne. Claremont signed it for me. He wrote some dialogue in it. And Tom Orzechowski lettered me that beautiful Bamf in this trade paperback. And so I mean, this thing is beat to hell. The glue is coming apart along the ends. I will love this thing forever. I am actively trying to get everyone who worked on this to sign this trade. So this was like one of the first big like comic book Christmas presents that I ever got, and it means the world to me. And 5 years later, my parents would give me the last Christmas present that they ever gave me, sadly. And that was the actual issues of the Dark Phoenix Saga. Didn't know it at the time, but, in retrospect, it sort of bookended that the first comic book Christmas present that they gave me was the Dark Phoenix Saga in trade, and the last Christmas present that they were able to ever give me was the single issues. And so, fun thing happened last year. I'm not really a tag comic book creators in social media type of person. No issues with anybody that does that, but it's not my cup of tea. Hey, cup of tea. So last year I wrote a big long thing about, just that, that this is probably my favorite Christmas tradition is reading this. My mom used to make these really great, she made these like wreath cookies that they were my favorite as a kid. And I didn't have them after she passed. Because there were a couple things. There's like my birthday cake and these wreath cookies, like her version of the, like other people would make the wreath cookies, but they were not the same. And there was a very specific birthday cake that she would make me, this lemon cake, and I didn't have it. And then when Ashley and I started dating, she was like, well, let me give it a try. And I was like, well, tons of people have tried to make this birthday cake, and it's never worked out, so I'm not going to get my hopes up. But about midway through the day when I was watching her make it, I was like, I think she might have it. And it was correct. And I cried like a baby when I read it, or when I ate it, because I hadn't had it in well over a decade. And sort of the same thing with this. We kind of figured out the correct recipe and what the ingredients were that made it different from other people's versions of these. And so I tend to house hot chocolate and these wreath cookies like a maniac, and read these issues with marshmallowy fingers. And last year I like posted about that on my social media, and Chris Claremont saw it, and he wished me a Merry Christmas. And I thought it was unsolicited. I did not tag him in it. He saw it because we're, I guess, friends on Facebook or whatever. And so that was pretty great. So, I mean, I don't really think that I need to get heavy into the ins and outs of the Dark Phoenix Saga, or try to like, oh, this is what it's about, because if you're here, I think it's more important to get across why it's important to me than express like, hey, this is why I think it's obvious why it's a great story. But to me, like, I mean, I know that a lot of it is built up in like my own reverence for like that memory, I mean, you can't argue the fact that come on, like first issue right out of the gate, like look at how good that first panel is, and like the raindrops on that burn in Austin are just, and I mean, hats off Bob Sharon and Glynis Wein, like they're on color duties for this. I love this 2-panel spread here where you've got the Blackbird flying, and then below it cuts right to the Hellfire jet, and just this panel of like Wingard on the plane, and like the detail, holy smokes, the detail that Byrne went into in his art is just so good. And man, like it sort of bums me out in some, when I'm like reading, to read one of these, it takes me a good, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes even longer if I start to get lost, like staring at art. And nowadays, I just don't feel like there's much emphasis on backgrounds as there should be. I mean, when Kitty's introduced, they go to the malt shop, and you can see, like, in this panel, Wolverine's looking at a penthouse. Peter's got this, like, shocked look on his face. The dude who runs the shop is glaring at him, pissed off, like, this isn't a library, kid. It's such good stuff. Anyways, the other thing that I really, so much X-Men stuff is, like, I don't think people realize, like, or it's kind of taken for granted. Like, you get introduced, this is first appearance of Kitty, first appearance of Emma Frost, first appearance of Hellfire Club, first appearance of Dazzler. Like, so many like things that are a huge part of X-Men continuity and lore. Is, I mean, it's so good. Love Dazzler, man. And I love the fact that like these the first few issues are like straight up like it's just them against the Hellfire Club, and that's great in and of itself. And I mean, you know, you get the famous Wolverine Alone. I got this one signed by Tom Orzechowski. You know, and all of it establishes Jean and Scott's rapport, and then from like the end of the Hellfire Club stuff, it immediately like you get these like, what is it, 5 issues dealing with kind of the Hellfire Club and the downfall of Jean through Jason Wingard's like machinations, and then bam, the end of that, and it's straight into like Shi'ar greatness. Like, look at the title page of that one. Like, it's just so good. And I just, no matter what, you would think, like, oh my God, you've read this every year since 1994 at Christmas time. Doesn't it ever get boring? And it does not. I mean, I find a deeper appreciation, not only for the writing, but I mean, just like the art is off the charts. Man. I know that Byrne has an Elsewhere thing coming out later this year, put out by Abrams Books, and I'm super excited. I freaking love John Byrne. Yeah, just, and I kind of wish that she'd kind of stayed gone. I don't really like the retcon of she was down in a cocoon. I think that, but I'm not gonna dwell on that. Oh man, the battle on the blue area of the moon is so good. I highly doubt that there are many of you out there that would be watching this that have never read the Dark Phoenix Saga. But if you haven't, and here's the other thing. Okay, so this sort of bums me out. When I am in shops and there's someone there that's like, oh, I'm interested in the X-Men. What should I read? People always rattle off the hits. Like, that's, I don't think people realize that, like, Dark Phoenix Saga is not a good introductory story. It's just not. And it's so much better if you read X-Men 98 until this. You know, there's 30 issues of setup of Jean becoming the Phoenix, of dealing with the power, of being stripped of that power. And you get, like, you know, Wingard messing with her. There's like quite a bit of lead up to her kind of falling apart and the Dark Phoenix happening. You shouldn't just be reading this, but I mean, you definitely should get some hot chocolate, curl up next to a fire, and give this another read, because it's, you know, friggin' fantastic. And I love that that is my memory of that. So that was like my back issue comic book tradition. That's the one that I do every year, without fail. I will fit it in. There's other ones that I sort of every now and again will kind of swoop in, and that is, so one of the books that I got when I was a kid, this was like on the shelves, with this X-Men Wrath of Apocalypse. And what this was it was issues 65 through 68 of X Factor, and that deals with baby Nathan getting infected by the techno-organic virus by Apocalypse. It introduces Mother Ascani and the clan Ascani, and Scott having to send his child into the future. You're sort of introduced to the Dark Riders. This was my introduction to the Inhumans as a kid, because obviously some of this goes back to the blue area. The movie connects in an interesting way to the Dark Phoenix Saga. I read this. I know I talked about this in an issue or in an episode earlier. I can't remember which one, because they're starting to, you know, it's not like I have 5 videos anymore. But the thing about this, like, as a kid, I read this and I was like, oh yeah, Scott has to send his kid to the future, but his kid in the future is Cable, and Cable's awesome. Like, Cable's gonna come back and he's a kick-ass character, and they know each other now, and everything's good. And I was interested in reading. This was the first time that I'd read this since becoming a dad, and it's different. It hits a lot different. It's much more tragic. I could not, I know there's a lot of, I'm a Scott Summers fan. I think Cyclops is a great character. I think that, at the end of the day, the X-Men, tale is primarily told through his eyes. It's tragic. Like, dude has had a tragic life. I tend to think that the most tragic characters in X-Men are Peter Rasputin and Illyana. But Cyclops is up there. And, this, if you've never read these 4 issues of X Factor, and I'm pretty sure that you could find these in a dollar bin. It's great. It's really good. It's towards the end of their time on X Factor, before, like, the Havoc, Strong Guy, Polaris team takes over. But I would or track this down, because paper stock in this, it's like kind of one of those square bound. It's the same as the originals. I know that, like, I'm not a big fan of, like, recoloring and stuff like that, and this was just straight up, they just reprinted it on newsprint, and it's great. Okay, so another one that really I don't reread often at Christmas time, but it definitely, like, I think about it a lot at this time of year, is Legion Quest and the lead up to Age of Apocalypse, because all that stuff sort of happened. The end of that stuff, the crystallization of the world, like the breaking of the X-Men universe at that point, happened like Christmas Eve, I think. I think X-Men Alpha for Age of Apocalypse came out on, like, New Year's Eve. And so I often think of this Wolverine issue, where it's Wolverine versus Sabretooth. Look at, there's a blast from the past. The X-Men Fleer Ultra cards still in there. So in this issue, with this fantastically painted Greg and Tim Hildebrandt, and, like, the pages, it's like my mom probably thought I was reading something. Like, all these great fold-out pages. Just a friggin' great issue. And it is just straight up, like, Wolverine's like, you know what? At the time, Xavier was trying to rehabilitate Sabretooth, so he was at the mansion. And there's kind of a news story going around about a dude that Logan had to deal with, who was a guy kind of abusing animals and eventually wound up, like, hurting some people. And so it's definitely got Logan thinking about Sabretooth. And so finally he goes down there and he's like, we're going to do this. Like, it's the final Wolverine versus Sabretooth fight. And I for sure thought it was going to be. Like, I was relatively new to comics, super naive, didn't quite understand that things were just going to kind of, like, nobody stays dead in comics except for Uncle Ben and Bucky at that time. And we all know how that worked out. And I'm fine with it. I think that the Winter Soldier stuff is great. But the last panel of the third claw getting popped, and then the world crystallizing over, was fantastic. And so, I have a couple here that I kind of rotate out every Christmas, but the main one is the Dark Phoenix Saga, and it makes me think of my X-Mansion under the stairs, and playing with my X-Men toys, and fireplaces, and Christmas lights, and Rod Stewart, and all that good stuff. So those are my weird non-Christmas comic traditions. So if you dig what I'm doing with the channel, it would be really awesome if you subscribed. Do you have any Christmas comic book traditions that aren't anything that you got that kind of stuck with you, that you maybe revisit every year at Christmas? Let me know in the comments. I would really appreciate it. I dig obviously talking about this stuff because I ramble quite a bit about it. And yeah, that is it. If you made it this long. In the last video, I talked about Christmas issues that I read, and there were 2 that I had to bring up because I missed them. First up, Incredible Hulk 378. I don't know how I missed this one, but I'm going to fit this one in before the 25th. A good old-fashioned Gray Hulk versus Rhino dressed up as Santa fight, written by Peter David. How good is that? And then this one is because friend of the channel, neighbor, an old comic book peddler to me at my old shop, gave me a heaping helping of grief for missing out on a Christmas comic that he gave me, which is one of the few DC titles. I even have the, there you go, you jerk. I even kept the tag on the wrapping for this issue in the issue, so I always remember who and why I was giving it to me, and that's Starman number 27 by DC. So, you know, this one sneaks in, and he gave me some grief for not mentioning it, so I felt like in this video I needed to mention it. So there you go, Starman number 27, nowhere near as good as the Dark Phoenix Saga, but there you have it. So that is, you can tell by the fact that the visor is no longer lit up, that the tea is below it and getting colder by the minute. So I'm gonna go enjoy some Christmas cookies and fudge with the kid, and then wonder why I can't get him down to bed. And then in 2 days, it's Christmas Eve. And there's going to be a bike ride to the comic book shop to pick up our new books. So we will talk about, I will talk about the books that I really liked from last week and what I picked up from the shop on Christmas Eve. And then I will wish all who celebrate a very Merry Christmas. I hope everyone is having a great holiday. I hope you've enjoyed the Christmas content. And yeah, I'll see you in a couple days for new comic book day. It's going to be exciting. Bye.